Welcome back to SJU. I am your Clone Wars expert, Roxy Striar. Yes, that's right. I put the rest of the panel to shame. I know all things Clone Wars. That is just straight facts. Emma Fyffe, you don't know Clone Wars like I know Clone Wars.
You're right, Roxy. You truly are the authority on all things Clone Wars. I so look forward to being enlightened by your wisdom today.
Can't wait to spread the knowledge. Ken Napzok, what do you know about Star Wars?
Not sure of anything in it, and I'm here to learn from you, Roxy.
Yeah, Eric Goldman, EG in the house, not as efficient in Star Wars as this one.
No, like I saw 2 episodes a few years ago. I want you to fill me in on everything, and I'm really excited to get to know about the Clone Wars today.
Yeah, so let me just tell you guys about this season premiere that took place in all 6 previous seasons that I watched every episode on that aired on Cartoon Network out of order. Picking up all the information. Apparently the show was canceled in 2013. It was a devastating hit to me when it was canceled. I didn't know how I'd survive again, which is why when at Comic-Con 2018 they said it was coming back, it was... I mean, just
Tears.
jumped for joy. Taking all of that out of the picture, I will tell you guys I watched my very first episode of Clone Wars this morning.
Yay!
It was the premiere.
There's always time to jump on board.
The premiere season 7. Yeah, this show looks cool. Let's talk non-spoilers, and then eventually we'll get into spoilers. And then I know we had a lot of cool articles that we want to break down that we're going to talk about later on in the episode. But this right now, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, no worries. We're going to just do a brief non-spoiler talk. Emma, how are you feeling about the Clone Wars premiere?
It was great. I mean, this is a series that, it originally started airing in, 2008? Yeah, I was going to say, I think
2008.
2008, yep. Mm-hmm. So I
remember it well.
Yes, of course. And like the animation has gotten progressively better, and I think that the storytelling has gotten more sophisticated, and then also being on the heels of Dave Filoni's other animated series, Star Wars Rebels, obviously we've formed even more of an attachment to some of the characters, one of whom was at the center of this episode, obviously Captain Rex. And yeah, it was great. I mean, I don't think it's too spoilery to say the whole episode is about the clone troopers, Clone Troop 99, who are the Bad Batch, as mentioned in the title. So the whole episode is just Deep Bradley Baker having conversations with himself, and it's great.
Did you know that they get their title from 99 red balloons going by?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Just my first nugget of wisdom there. Can you top that? What did you think of the episode?
I thought it was great. I don't have any rare 80s music tie-ins for this, but...
well, are you a real fan then?
That I'm not a real fan. No, I loved it. Look, this show has a passionate following for a lot of reasons. For older fans, it helped them maybe re-evaluate the prequels and introduce some big Lucas's big themes and concepts into it. For a lot of younger fans, this is their first Star Wars. I love running. We've talked about this on other places, Emma. Like, I love running into fans who are like, the first time I ever saw Star Wars was Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And that brings this entire new, wonderful perspective. And so they have a lot of joy. There's a lot of anticipation for it. And this episode delivered new. These are older episodes we're going to talk about, but the new, not new, but just a refresh, modern animation style that, again, in the mid 2000s, they started putting together. It looked sharp, looked crisp, real fun. D. Bradley Baker in a room talking to himself. Delivered. Yeah. Loved a lot what was going on here.
EG, how you feeling?
Very happy to have it back. I have a lot of love for Clone Wars for a couple reasons, both as a Star Wars fan. I thought, it just got better and better, like Emma was saying, as it went on. A lot of great stories and characters came from it. Professionally, I kind of go way back with this show. I covered it a lot. When I was at IGN, I did a lot of interviews with Filoni and Ashley Eckstein, and there's something about seeing it come back. The fact that it's been that long, like both the show beginning 12 years ago, it's been off the air for 6 years since the Netflix season. So it was kind of just watching like a new episode. I was like, what? I can't believe Clone Wars is back.
Because it did kind of feel like they just picked up where they left off.
Yeah.
As the episode started and we basically got the exact opening you would have gotten to any Clone Wars episode in the past, where it was quote, and then you got the little voiceover narration of what's been going on in the war, and then we were into the episode. I was like, oh man, this is the Clone Wars.
Although there was a couple of visual differences I noticed, which is they changed the logo, and now Starr and Wars are not on the top and bottom; they're next to each other,
which is a massive deal.
It's very massive. I had to deal with it emotionally, but I've come through. But also the animation, I think, right from the very beginning, when they do the sort of newsreel catch-up, I noticed they were doing like a little overlapping imagery in a way they never used to do.
Yeah.
And just so right from the beginning, I was like, oh, wow, like just the fact that 12 years in animation is a long time for a lot of improvements. And you saw it over the run of the show initially, but now that it's been another 6 years, it's kind of amazing to see technology-wise where it's gone.
Even though I obviously know the answer to this question, I'm going to ask it anyway. What happened on Netflix? They did episodes?
So when they canceled the show,
Right, of course, I remember that.
they made a statement about how the show's canceled, but we're going to have some bonus content at the time. They used that terminology that turned out to be 13 episodes that would have been part of a full 20. They used to do 22 episode seasons. So those 13 episodes were kind of leftover, almost finished episodes that they turned into a truncated season that Netflix ended up airing a year after the cancellation.
Right. Okay. Thank you for refreshing my memory. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
yes.
Let's get into some spoiler talk. So for anybody who has not seen this episode yet, who is planning on seeing this episode, now is a good time to peace out for a minute. I'll wave my hands when we are done with spoiler talk. Or we have like Joe Starr dancing
Do we have
somewhere.
Dancing Joe?
It's a new system.
It's a new system. All right,
new
so
system.
I will be Dancing Joe. Also, send Joe some love. I think he's got the flu.
He does.
Send Joe some love. Send Joe some love.
And some soup.
All right, so let's talk about this, breaking it down spoiler-wise.
Oh, wait.
Found it?
Oh, did we find him?
Is Dancing Joe going to miraculously?
Suspense is
Just
killing
a
me.
lot of anticipation for Joe Starr dancing.
Dance, Joe, dance.
Great. Love good dancing Joe. Okay, so what do? We keep him up as long as we're talking spoilers?
Yeah. Well,
I think when he comes back up again,
Okay,
the
yeah,
communication
yeah,
is
yeah.
done.
I think
Yeah.
let's
when he
get rid
comes
of him,
back up,
and when he
we'll do
comes
the Anna
back.
wave.
Yeah. Okay. When you see Joe again, you know you've gone too far, or too soon, or something like
You can
that.
come back.
Okay, so as my first episode of this show, I will say I was rather confused. Maybe you guys could fill in some blanks for me. So, like, I'm a basic premise of what's happening here.
Okay, so here the basic premise is that we are in the midst of the Clone Wars. You know,
Right.
we got the Republic and the Separatists. They're fighting. What's been going on is that on this planet, I think Anaxis is the name of the planet that they're fighting on right now. The clone troops that are sort of under the supervision of Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker. They
Love Anakin.
Right, Matt Lanter.
Darth Vader.
Oh, Eric.
Don't tell me that.
Don't ruin this for Roxy.
sorry.
As long as hated.
We were just discussing how much she loves Matt Lanter. So anyway, so they're starting to have trouble in these battles because the troops that they're fighting against are able to predict all of the tactical patterns of their clones, because like clones are limited in terms of because they're clones of one another, so they're sort of limited in terms of their tactics, and they're also like, we only have this one way of doing things. How are we gonna come up against this in a way where we start to gain the upper hand? Well, we got to switch it up. We got to call in Troop 99, aka the Bad Batch, because they are defective clones. So they have some variations on them that make them different from all of the other clones.
So when you guys hear Troop 99, are you like, oh, we know who that is based on, or is this okay?
It's also named after a older
balloons.
defective clone in
Besides the balloons.
Yeah, the balloons, yeah. An older defective clone who's like a maintenance janitorial guy on Camino, and we saw him in season 3, I believe, right?
Yeah.
99.
And the idea that once in a while these clones are supposed to be exact genetic clones.
Yeah.
But once in a while one comes out wrong or different. So 99, he was kind of like this somewhat disfigured guy who was not allowed to be a trooper. He did maintenance because of how he came out. So this group is named after him in a tribute to sort of, who he was. And they mentioned a couple characters that died on this episode. That's the
Yeah.
thing, is we've gotten to know a lot of these different clone troopers through the years. And a guy named Echo was one of the ones who also died. Or did he?
Or did
So,
he?
but you guys have previously seen Echo.
Yeah. He got like blown up in a previous episode, but actually maybe he didn't.
So what was was there anything surprising to you guys in this? Was it pretty standard? Was this like a more exciting episode, or kind of middle of the road?
Well, if you're really clued in Clone Wars, they did air all 4 of these episodes that are in this arc, The Bad Batch, at Celebration 2015 in unfinished form. So if you're digging around, say Wikipedia, like I do pretty much every day over breakfast, be careful not to go too far. You will start to spoil
what
it.
happens in this particular serial.
Yeah.
If you will.
How close is this to the first 4 episodes? How close was this to the unfinished product?
This morning, I might have found a version still floating out there because it was on StarWars.com at one point of this first episode, and it was like 80-90% the same, but there were a couple interesting little differences. One of which was the opening where they talked to Mace Windu and Anakin. In the original version, right away, Captain Rex says, "Oh, this seems like Echo or something that they got from Echo." But now he only tells Cody when they walk away. But I also noticed, and I think this is the difference between finishing these episodes now, is that now they know this is the end. At the time they were making these episodes, I think it was probably supposed to be many more episodes after this.
Yeah.
So they added that scene with Cody and Rex. They also had him looking at a picture of a bunch of characters we knew who died on the show, and I think that's probably another way that they're going to try to be like, hey, we're coming to the close of this story now, and Captain Rex has been kind of a very important character, and he's Anakin Skywalker's right-hand man, but we know that Order 66 is coming, so I think that's put in there to give this more nuance, because what Rex is going to do, his decisions are going to be pretty important in these 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Having this be this is the second one after Mandalorian, correct, that we've seen of Star Wars on the Disney
On
Plus.
Disney Plus, in terms of original content.
How do you guys feel like those stack up to each other? Is it just completely different and you go into it with a different mindset, or are you guys comparing them in your heads at all?
The thing is Mandalorian is very much its own story. I mean, which isn't to say that you don't need the sort of general context of Star Wars to enjoy it, but in terms of Clone Wars, this is a continuation of something that already exists, so you kind of do need that basis of knowledge, I think, in order to understand what's going on here. That being said, as somebody that does really enjoy the Clone Wars, I loved this episode. I'm so excited to see some of the storylines that I know are going to be covered throughout the course of this final season, but it's kind of apples and oranges, I think, in terms of Mandalorian versus Clone Wars, in terms of how you kind of approach them.
But you should eat all kinds of fruit.
Yes, you should.
But I think also it's kind of cool because of the Filoni thing of it all, because he's done both these shows, and Clone Wars is weird because now it's like something he did years ago he's coming back to now. But it's kind of cool because we're getting Mandalorian in this back-to-back, so we're kind of seeing in both shows how he's grown as a storyteller. We already know from the trailer that they threw in like Little Kanan. They're going to be able to I wouldn't even be shocked if there's some definitely there's a way they could have some nods to the Mandalorian with a certain weapon.
Sure.
It's kind of cool because Dave Filoni has become the guy with Star Wars TV. Now that's not going to be true going forward. He's not working on Obi-Wan directly, I don't think, or some of these other shows. But it is, you're kind of getting his perspective, the guy who worked right with George Lucas. He's kind of the last storytelling connection to George Lucas, who did Clone Wars with him until this final season. So I think that's kind of where Mandalorian and it have an interesting relationship with each other.
I do want to ask you guys about things you're excited for in this season. Emma, you did mention storylines that you're looking forward to, but any spoilers that we wanted to cover before we ask that? Because I want to have
spoilers in the episode.
Yeah, anything else that you want to talk about before?
They reveal at the end with pretty much certainty that Echo is definitely still alive.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one.
That's right, Roxy.
Right. Couldn't miss that.
Right.
Yeah.
You did a spit take when you were watching, right?
Mr. Echo. It's lost crossover.
That's right, yes.
And that's exciting for you guys, I'm assuming?
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly adds a layer of intrigue to what's going on.
As going back to the beginning of the show, there was an episode called Rookies in season 1 that I think was one of the first, episodes of the show. Because when the show first began, it seemed like, this is pretty kid-oriented, I don't know. And then Rookies was about 5 rookie clone troopers, and it was much more intense and sort of action-heavy. And Echo was one of the 5 characters introduced in that episode, who all of them started to get killed off through the years. So it was kind of like, wow, we really had this group of characters, and then we started to lose them one by one. So there is something cool about bringing him back in the final season, because it's a little.
And he's the only one still.
Until now, we thought they were all dead. Mm-hmm. By having him be alive, it'd be like, okay, one of them is now.
Could
alive.
there be more?
No, the rest had pretty definitive on camera
Right.
like, ways
of
they
course.
can't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
mean,
yeah.
it's-
yeah, Ken, yeah.
There's space magic.
Echo had the what I call the Stannis Baratheon death because Stannis is still alive.
That's true, man. Why didn't they show Brienne do it?
Now you guys are speaking my language. All right, let's get out of spoilers. Let's see that Joe Starr image
Dance.
pop up on there.
Dance Starr.
Dance. Star. Yeah. Like, do you call this a dance? Is this
I think Joe calls that a dance.
With Joe, look at that.
Also-
Everything about that is fluid movement of the soul.
I am just curious. So, like, he's holding his cell phone because presumably it's playing music, right? But why wouldn't he put it down? Like, it plays music not in your hand, too.
Are you?
Right?
Maybe he's just in the middle of a dance floor, and I don't know why he's alone and
just
why
gonna
there's no
be
other
judgy.
music.
Are you questioning a white guy dancing?
How dare I? How dare I? All right, just questions on moving forward. Because again, Emma, you were talking about storylines that you're interested in
Yes.
seeing in the future. Where are you guys hoping that this show does go in its final season?
Well, we know that one of the things they're definitely going to cover this season is the Siege of Mandalore, which I'm very, very excited about because it's something that, again, we've gotten a lot of tidbits of information about from comics and just sort of like people filling in the blanks of, oh, well, we never got to really finish the Clone Wars and do what we wanted to do with the show. So it's a big storyline that involves Ahsoka Tano on Mandalore and Darth Maul, and it's going to be crazy. I'm excited.
Ken, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the build out of some of these big concepts without getting us back into spoilers for this episode because I don't want Joe to pull a hamstring dancing again today. What Clone Wars I think has done, and Eric mentioned this great episode, the Rookies, that starts us down this path, is the clones are kind of viewed in story as these blunt objects. They are bred for war, and along the way they kind of realize they have lives themselves, they have personalities themselves. These connections go deeper. It's also how the Jedi view them. Anakin, who attachment is a weakness for him, is one of the only Jedi to show any kind of outside care and concern. He connects with Rex, he connects with the clones. Obi-Wan, who I always love and is one of my favorite characters, I always say is not even as droid or clone positive as we want Obi-Wan to be, though he and Cody have a connection. This is the start of them diving into what are the clones' place in the galaxy. What are the clones' place? We are war. You hear in the trailer, I think we heard something about the clones going, we have a weird relationship to this war. Without it, we don't exist. But who are we outside of it? Can we figure that out? And I think Rex connecting with Echo, that's something I really want to dive into. Just the clones, the galaxy's view of the clones. There's a great speech from Padme back in an arc earlier where Padme has the radical speech moment of, hey, I also view clones as people too. And I'm paraphrasing, but like that's something that's going on in the galaxy during this time that I think George was interested in telling, and Filoni and him have done a great job. And this episode got me excited for what's coming forward with that.
EG, what about you?
I'm really excited how, the Siege of Mandalore, of course, but also how we're going to see, it's pretty clear from the trailer, and also Filoni had spoken about this years ago when it was all like episodes they never thought they'd do, how it's going to intertwine with Revenge of the Sith. The show is called The Clone Wars, and it would logically end with the wars ending, except Revenge of the Sith told that story, but now it seems like, oh no, we're going to get this overlap. We're going to get, like, they had direct dialogue glyphs in the trailer where you see Yoda and Mace Windu saying lines they say in Revenge of the Sith, and we're going to sort of see this other side of what was happening. So I think that's really cool. It's a weird thing to have the show come back and end now, because if it had aired as originally intended and we got that final story arc, there'd be like, oh, is Ahsoka gonna die? Is Rex gonna die? Is Darth Maul gonna die? But because they've already done follow-up stories, we know the answers to those questions, and that's unavoidable now. But I want to see the minutia, I want to see the details, and I really want to see how they intertwine it with Revenge of the Sith, especially with Anakin, because this show has done a really good job of helping motivate his fall a lot better than the movies did, I thought.
Yes.
And that's like what you were saying earlier about, like, it kind of puts the prequels in new perspective. And now he's got these really close relationships with characters like Ahsoka and Rex. So I think, and they've already shown how that can influence what he does in Revenge of the Sith. But I think there'll be I'm pretty sure we're going to get a little more of that, since we're going to see him meet these characters one last time.
I'm interested to just see a little bit more with Ahsoka in this series, wherein we left her in Clone Wars and she had left the Jedi Order. And so now obviously we see a lot of her in Star Wars Rebels and what she's ultimately become, but it's going to be fun to see some of her storyline of her just like figuring out her place in everything at this point, because she's not part of Jedi Order anymore. So, and they clearly at Star Wars Celebration last year, they showed some concept art and some little like clips for some stuff that's going to be kind of lower levels of Coruscant that I like, with some sort of fringe characters and Ahsoka getting involved with them, which I'm excited to see as well.
Character on the show Fringe?
Yeah, that's right. It's Christopher.
Oh, wow.
Sean Nolan's from Star Wars stuff?
Rebels timeline-wise is after this?
No, yes, it's after
way
this. Yeah.
Okay.
Closer.
I'm just putting all of the pieces
I'm seeing
together.
you as the gif of the girl with the numbers.
Isn't that Winona Ryder?
There's that one, too.
that one.
that girl. Yeah, because I am. It's interesting because I love Star Wars. I'm just the most casual Star Wars fan of the lot.
I don't like
Many
that term,
levels.
Roxy. I don't like
What,
that term. If you
casual?
like Star Wars, you're a Star Wars fan.
I
The
am.
end.
I am a fan, but I don't know all of this stuff, and I don't watch these. And I just maybe other people know this, but are they contradicting ever? Like, if they're overlapping, are you ever like, that's not?
I think it's a chance, like Eric was saying, to really kind of recontextualize some of the things we are familiar with in Revenge of the Sith. It's a Legends book now, but James Luceno wrote a great book called Plagueis, which goes back into the events of the Phantom Menace and kind of makes you go, oh, there's some other stuff that's going on. I really think, because there's a shot in the trailer we saw of a pregnant Padme and Anakin, that has to happen after the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. Are we going to learn a little bit more of Padme's state of mind? Because this series has done a great job in building out that character, which, for unfortunately very real world reasons, Natalie Portman wasn't featured as much in Revenge of the Sith, and so it leads to some troubling conclusions for that character. Are we going to get some recontextualized thoughts on her mental collapse or what caused her heart to break? All those kind of things that are kind of silly jokes in Star Wars. The show has always, going back to the beginning, really made you rethink about the prequels and some of the events, and I think that's what it can do.
And Padme's a regular character in this show.
Yeah, Kat Tabor's a great voice actor, does a great job with it. Yeah.
There's always that sort of grain of salt, like, the second they introduced Ahsoka, people are like, how could Anakin have had a Padawan we never heard about? Yeah. So you have to go with it. You have to be like, well, he didn't mention her out loud because Obi-Wan already knows about her.
Yeah.
But it can help you contextualize everything he went through with her. That's in his mind, and it's helping his motivations here. So, yeah, I guess, it'd be nice if sometimes these things like, oh, a character is never mentioned, you think maybe they should have been. But I also am like, you don't talk out loud about everyone you knew. They're in your mind.
Yeah,
you know?
I have friends you guys have never heard of.
Exactly.
I agree. I don't think it ever does anything to directly contradict so much as, like you were saying, Ken, it recontextualizes things.
Yeah.
And it is an especially interesting position we're in, because so many of the characters that we know we're going to be following in these episodes of Clone Wars, we already know what happens to those characters. But also, you look at Clone Wars as it originally was, all of the characters that appear in the prequel trilogy, we knew what happened to them already for the most part. So it's not a bad thing. It's just adding layers so that you come to have a deeper understanding of those characters.
Well, what do you guys think at home? Are you the real Clone Wars expert like me, and you understood every part of this conversation?
The master.
Some might call me the master. In fact, everyone does. How are you feeling about this premiere? I mean, we've waited a long time for season 7 to come about. So make sure you let us know in the comments below. Also, like, subscribe, share this video, tell your friends, and hit that bell. Whoa, I didn't think I doubted the bell was going to get hit, but it did. Turn on the notifications, all of that great stuff. We also have other amazing content going on for you guys. Oh, every time I say the word content now, I hear Dan Merle in my ear saying, I don't like the word content. Other amazing projects going on. Yeah, that's his preference.
That's a good word.
Other projects. Fandom IRL. I'm obsessed with this series. We have a lawyer defending Joker, and also we've got stuff going on with Harley there too. You might recognize the voice. Sometimes you might think it's Emma Fyffe. It is not. That's Dr. Drea Letamendi, who is awesome and broke down for us whether Harley Quinn is crazy or not. Also, honest trailers for Knives Out is out. Haha, Knives Out is out. I like that I got a little laugh from over there. I will take it. You guys couldn't hear it, so I had to let you know somebody laughed at
Master
my joke.
Roxy, there's too many puns.
No such thing, young Jedi. Ken Can I?
Too many.
How do I make Ken into a Jedi?
I mean,
Napzok.
Don't worry about it.
Nope. Yep. All right. Moving forward. So if you want to watch the Knives informational tour video, this was insane. Have you guys checked this out?
I was here to see both of them live on air, Roxy. So yes.
I mean, okay. So there's two different things. There's this knife video that Dan Merle does that like had me peeing that I was laughing so hard because I don't even know how he does his accent and everything. And then there is this Cribs style tour that Ryan does. I think it's 7 minutes long, and I've watched it 45 times. Like I cannot. Also, I have to find that stairwell that he cries in.
I just think it's funny that we finally did this big reveal of here's what the office is like, but we're going to move in a few weeks.
I know.
The sequel.
That's
Ryan's gonna have to find a new cry corner.
That's true.
Something
That's the
tells
first
me
thing
he'll
he
be
asked
able
about.
to. This is on Screen Junkie Social, and like I'm gonna use this. It is a must see. Like it is a must see video. Really good. Also a bunch of Clone Wars tie-in articles, which is most relevant to this episode. Eric, what's going on with that?
Yeah, we had a few things in the lead-in this week about Clone Wars. I thought pretty good topics, and one is about Ahsoka Tano, and it was kind of Donna Dickens wrote that one. That was kind of looking at her story so far, and we included stuff after from the novel and from Rebels, and kind of went over here's like the big points of her life. Here's what we don't know that we're hoping to get filled in. And I see a lot of people like there's so much love for Ahsoka out there.
Yeah, did you see all that new Disneyland merch? Did you see the Ahsoka ears?
No.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
What, they're exclusive at Disneyland?
Yeah. They did like a few of my friends were at, it seems like some sort of thing in Florida where they unveiled a bunch of new Star Wars merch. And one of the things they had, there was a ton of Ahsoka stuff. You know, they had like spirit jerseys and variations on, because that has already existed. Ashley did one of those already. But yeah, there was so much merchandise. But yeah, there were Ahsoka Mickey ears, and they're really cute.
What would Ahsoka ears look like?
Well, they look like her like Liku, which are the like it's like the head tails that she's got with the stripes on them.
She looks over at Ken's pocket.
There you go.
Hidden, but
She's
Yeah,
got
they're
him
kinda
under a
hidden.
hood there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys big Ahsoka fans?
I love Ahsoka.
I am
yeah,
very much.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like she's the best. Like from
Yeah.
everybody I know, because I feel like I would adore Ahsoka if I understood more.
Sure. So to
Which I do,
contextualize,
of course.
she first shows up and it's in the Clone Wars movie.
Yes.
And she's Anakin's Padawan, and she's like a kind of spunky, smart-mouthed like teen. And she just has such a good character arc and you see her sort of being directly influenced by her relationship with him, because like Ken was saying, like one of the things about Anakin that makes him such a compelling character, particularly in the Clone Wars, is that he does form attachments and he does question, but he takes it he like goes to extreme with it and ends up being Darth Vader. Ahsoka kind of represents all the like really good parts of Anakin, but even she comes to a head with the Jedi Order at sort of the end of where she was in Clone Wars as we originally saw it, where she sort of gets framed for a crime she didn't commit. And they ultimately, clear her name, and they're like, "Oh, you're pardoned, you're fine now." And she's like, "No, I can't go back to these people that would, that see in these sort of very black and white terms. So I have to walk away from this." So yeah, she's this really interesting character who has such a mind of her own and is also really great with lightsabers.
I think it's a really cool thing to see, like, because fans kind of hated her when she first introduced.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, who's this like 14-year-old spunky, bratty character? What's she doing to my Star Wars? And then to see the love people have for her is really cool, because I just rewatched the whole series before the new season. And it's like you really do see her mature. I think they earn a lot with her, both like showing her emotional maturity growing, but also like I was noticing like the first time she fights Grievous, she's pretty much running from him, and then like a few years later they have them fight again, and now she's like she's a badass. But they didn't do that right away. Like they were careful with that. So yeah, it's really cool to see that she is such a beloved character. In the article we have, it's it mentions that arguably like the most beloved character who's not from the movies, and I'd say that's probably true.
I'd say that's true.
Ken, you think she's the most?
Yeah, I'm right in that wheelhouse of when it first came up. I was it's just like, who's this? And her nickname is Snips. It's like, who's this snippy preteen girl? And I'm not against
with a P.
that.
Snips.
And I'm not against that overall, but just as a Star Wars fan, I had the question. I was like, well, she can't be alive. But what am I doing? Within a year, you're like, oh, I get what's good. This is this great character that grows and grows and grows. Has great storylines. And at the end, when she walks away, it's one of the best storylines in Star Wars, because George was in the prequels was poking back at the Jedi Order as this institution that was failing. But I think it gets misunderstood that George wasn't saying the Jedi were bad or their tenets were bad. And Ahsoka is a reflection back to the Jedi of the things you believe in aren't wrong. It's what you're doing. It's how you're executing them. I am connecting more to that. I am walking towards the light, and she becomes herself in this moment. It's a powerful moment. It affects Anakin. Eric talked about recontextualizing Anakin's fall. So it's deep. So there's these big, wonderful, inspirational themes for all ages, if you really look at it. And she fits really well in the Star Wars story, especially when she comes back. I do believe in Rebels, some of the moments with her. I think she gets to Anakin unlike anyone else in their final duel. And so it grows. The show grew with her because she's the point of view character.
Yeah. What do you guys attribute then the growth to mostly? Is it the writing? Is it the voice? Why did you guys all feel frustrated with her at first and then ultimately?
Well, I think that Ken really hit the nail on the head, which is that she is your POV character. She is the character who you are going on a journey with, because she's one of the most prominent original characters introduced in Clone Wars, because Clone Wars by and large is about characters that we met in the prequels, be it like specifically them or the concept of them, like say the clones. But Ahsoka is this entirely original character, and we as the audience are kind of going on her journey as the show, as we get deeper into the Clone Wars, as we see more of what the Jedi Order is kind of about or not about. We're seeing all of that through the lens of Ahsoka, really, and I think that that's why she works so well.
And I think because like Filoni's so savvy, and it's kind of famous now that he's talked about when the show premiered, he said to Ashley Eckstein, like, "Oh, people are going to hate your character, by the way." Like he knew exactly how she would be received initially, so he could write to that. He could be like, "Okay, this is who she is, but we're going to take her on this path and sort of make sure she had these milestones along the way, and that we get to see these things that would really change her, and that she's not the same kid we met." And so I think the fact that you had someone guiding the ship who was very aware of how the audience would first perceive her could help him get her on the path.
Ashley, the name of the voice of the actress.
Yeah, and Dave is notoriously, as he should be, protective of the character, and that's why I hope we'll get some more stories with her after this.
Yeah.
E.G., you talk in here about how the Force got trippy. Talk to me about what's going on.
So yeah, we have another article by Brian Young about basically what the Clone Wars added to the Force. And the Force is a funny thing, I think, in Star Wars, because it started out as just, we got kind of Obi-Wan's speech in A New Hope about here's how it works as all living beings. And we felt, okay, I get a handle on this. And then the prequels added midichlorians, and that became a controversial thing because it felt like, whoa, this is a whole scientific aspect to it. But then the Clone Wars got really out there and sort of mystical in a big. I mean, the Force was always mystical, but
what did the Clone Wars add to the Force?
Force gods.
Yeah, there was a whole arc where there basically were. I think Force gods is the best way to describe them. They're sort of like the ancient spiritual embodiments of the Force.
Of the light and the dark.
Is this more like Mulan, where you go and speak to the ancestral, or is it more like the gods choose who gets the Force?
It's not unlike Mulan going to commune with the ancestor gods of the past. I think it's closer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was out there. I mean, there was this arc called the Mortis arc. It's on the planet called Mortis, and it was certainly one of the weirder things I thought they did on that show, to be like, oh yeah, this is like the this guy you're talking to, he's like the dark side of the Force. Like,
Did it work?
I thought it did.
I think it's a really good collection of episodes.
And they did a cool thing, like Sam Witwer, who does a lot of voices for Star Wars, like he voiced
I know.
There you go.
All of these things I know.
He voices
being the number one Clone
He
Wars
voices the
expert.
son, who is the embodiment of the dark side, and they did a really cool thing. And because Sam's a really clever sort of mimic, where as he's talking, his voice changes, and sometimes he sounds like Palpatine, sometimes he sounds like Darth Maul, a little bit of Vader. It was like the fact that if he's embodying the dark side, then he'll embody all these characters, people we never met, that are in the future at this point in the timeline. So I thought, it's a really weird, trippy thing. But there was even stuff in Rise of Skywalker, though, where I was like, it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff Clone Wars did, as far as some of the more, I don't know, getting, I used the word mystical, knowing it was always a part of what the Force had to be, but just getting a little more literal, a little more physical with it.
What is the article talking about?
The article kind of goes into that. Like, here's what, the show introduce these sort of major, and some of it's a little more minutia. Some of it's like, hey, the show got into like how you build your lightsaber.
Oh,
sort of definitively, like, here's how a young Jedi.
I didn't even think about the fact that Clone Wars was the show that sort of defined the lightsaber building process.
Yeah,
but I remember that episode well.
Yeah, so it's like stuff like that. It's like here's like the real specifics on it. Here's like we got some dark side. We had the witches of Dathomir.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're basically using the Force in a much more witchy way, like mystical green energy sort of stuff. So you got and you got to also the idea that Darth Maul lives because he was just so pissed off. That if you have enough anger, and they're really afraid of dying, the Sith, and so he was just he kind of angered himself into surviving losing his bottom half. So stuff like that. There's a lot of sort of interesting conceptual things that Clone Wars put in, which actually I feel like give the live action movies a lot of leniency, because when you're like, that's a crazy thing for them to say the Force can do, I'm like, have you seen Clone Wars?
It's interesting. Riverdale is borrowing the storyline right now about being angry enough and staying alive
to just live.
It's really branched off.
So they have like their own Darth Maul on Riverdale?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting show. You guys should check it out. No, Ken? Not totally for you?
Maybe.
Have you guys gone and build your own lightsaber yet? Is that something that you guys
I have not been to Galaxy's Edge yet. So
Wait a second.
I have not been to Galaxy's Edge.
How is this possible?
Is this a I will not go situation, or this just
No, I've had
it's expensive, I've
3
not made
trips that I've had to cancel at the last minute for work-related things. So I'm still waiting to go. So once I get there, I'll save up my allowance money and build my lightsaber.
I feel like this is a hashtag get Ken to Galaxy.
Send other people. I don't need I don't need the internet to worry about whether I go or not go.
I haven't done it either. Is the lightsaber experience? Have any of you guys?
Eric's done it.
I've done it. Yeah. It was my gift from my wife for my birthday last year.
Oh, so it's a very expensive thing. I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's $200. But it's
well worth it.
Here's how you logic
Force
it.
costs a lot.
But I mean, honestly,
They established that in Clone
it
Wars.
is a lot of money, but
expensive.
it's basically you're buying one of the high-end lightsabers that sell for like 120, and then you're paying that 80 for like the experience.
It's like getting your wand at Universal.
But it was cool.
But
If
it's
you're
even more personal than getting your wand at Universal.
What are some of the like they ask you questions and stuff?
no, it's more like
they ask you how many Clone Wars episodes have you watched.
They ask you when Ahsoka was introduced.
I have watched all 407 of them.
Nailed it.
102.
That's about right.
86.
Sure.
Yep.
No, it's really cool. Like first of all, they keep to the storyline. It's like you're supposed to be hiding from the First Order. They don't want you to know that you're down here making lightsabers. And then they do a whole mystical thing and choose the color you want, choose the crystal you want. I chose purple because it's my favorite. Using the existing colors they've done in Star Wars canon, and then they do like a whole ceremony. And yes, it's very silly, but it's also, if you're a big Star Wars fan, it's pretty cool. You're definitely like it's all lit, dark, and you turn on your lightsaber and you're all holding your lightsabers aloft. And
I did finally
Yes.
I did go on Rise of the Resistance the other day, though.
And how was it?
Oh my god. It was the coolest ride I've ever been on in my life.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I know people have gone, my writing partner Matt Key and his wife Brittany, who used to produce here at Screen Junkies Extra for All, they're not huge Star Wars fans. Brittany called me crying from that ride and goes, "It's I've never experienced this.
It's
I've never
unbelievable.
experienced
Yeah.
this." So I'm excited.
You have to make a reservation, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
it's a whole
listen,
thing.
I don't know if I want to reveal the secrets of how you managed to get on there, but if you want to know, just tweet at me later.
It's like Yosemite. You have
I'm
to
gonna
book your
tweet at
cabin
you
2
later.
years in advance. Yeah.
Oh God! So speaking of clones, good transition, Rox.
nice.
Crushing it.
To end out this segment, do you guys have a favorite clone?
I mean, it sounds cliche. I'll answer Rex,
Yeah.
which is the main one, just because.
I met him
Yeah.
years ago, and also today.
Yeah. I just think for me as a fan of the prequels, but also just someone who looked at the clones as they were presented, just these tools of war and everything, like to connect with this guy, this leader. It worked for me.
Yeah, I thought I'll have to go with Rex too. Obviously we have a lot of familiarity with him, but I also liked Fyffe a lot because I rewatched the show recently when his sort of paranoia. He was a character who started to figure out Order 66 before it happened.
Yes.
And
Five. Fives.
the idea is that all the clones had numerical names and they kind of chose for themselves and were encouraged to by the Jedi to have a personal name, to actually take on a name and not just be a number. So Fives, because he had a lot of fives in his original designation number, chose that. I really liked him and where they went with the paranoia thing. But yeah, the last article I'll pimp out that you should go to on fandom.com is one I did, and I talked to D. Bradley Baker. Yay! I talked to D. Bradley Baker. Thank you. Wow. For the new season and the show coming back, and he's just so amazingly talented. Like we said, just this episode is basically after the beginning with Mace and Anakin. It's basically this one dude talking to himself. And I asked him the process. He says, yeah, he doesn't do one character at a time. He'll just do the entire scenes. Talking to himself, talking to himself, multiple characters. He actually said the one funny thing about this storyline is he feels like he's maybe getting a little overpraised because the Bad Batch actually sounds different. Usually it's always the same sort of New Zealand accent he's doing, but the Bad Batch actually has bigger variances in how they speak. He actually says that's easier than when it's just seen with the regular clones because it's easier for him to be like, oh, I'm a totally different voice here than these are 5 guys who have the same exact voice, but this one's the nervous one. This one's the more stoic one. Like the nuances.
Yeah, he's right.
Different.
We shouldn't praise him for that. Totally. Yeah.
You should praise him for everything he does on this show because it's kind of amazing just to think about watching these episodes and seeing. We mentioned these other the different clones he does, and they are the same but different. It's like we'll see this one guy who's goes on his own little track and he gets to Jin and the way he does these little variances. So yeah, I'm in awe of that guy's talent.
Yeah,
Emma, what about you?
I love everything that D. Bradley Baker does on this show. I'm trying to remember the names of the clones that make it out with him. That when we meet him again in Rebels,
The
Gregor?
outsiders.
Gregor's the only one I could remember.
What was the other one who
Frederick.
survived? Was it Wolf?
Yeah.
Wolf.
Gregor Wolf.
I was going to get
and
to that
there was
one. Jameson.
Was there one more? I don't know. Anyway.
Frederick.
Sally.
No, but they're like a fun ragtag group of clones that we re-meet in Star Wars Rebels, fighting sandworms.
And Gregor's kind of he's a little.
He's a little kooky.
He's kooky.
Yeah.
Some might say.
It was you who first said
Yes,
that.
I believe that I'm the one who titled Gregor kooky.
Gregor's kind of a fun character.
So now that we've fleshed out all of my knowledge, I hope you guys learned something today.
Thank you, Roth.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm ready to check out this show because you spoke so well.
Oh, I sold you guys on it?
Yeah.
Good. Because it's definitely, I will say, worth your time. It's worth your time and your energy. So yeah, Clone Wars. It's really good. Emma, where can the people find you?
You can find me all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold, at my name, Emma Fyffe. Thank you to those of you that tuned into the My Hero Academia premiere stream the other night, which I hosted. It was real fun. We got lots of good feedback on it. So thanks for checking it out.
Ken Nedai? Did I get there?
Can
Yeah, it's like,
Sure.
I added
That
another
works.
syllable.
Whatever you need.
Where can the people keep up?
You go to catnapzok.com. From there, you can link to buy my book, Why We Love Star Wars, now available in German. And then also,
way!
it is. I don't know how that happened, but I have a German copy of the book.
That's amazing.
And then March 6th, I'll be in Las Vegas. Mark Ellis, Josh McCouga, me, performing comedy at Mandalay Bay. So come on out. Go
You're
to
gonna
Mark
make the
Ellis
jokes?
Live. MarkEllisLive.net. You want tickets to see us in Vegas. If I can pull myself away from the Game of Thrones slots.
Whoa. E.G., where can the people keep up with you?
I am the Eric Goldman on most of your social media platforms because lawyer Eric Goldman's better at grabbing that name than I am.
Lawyers will do that to you.
And I have my wrestling podcast, We Enjoy Wrestling, and you can find me at fandom.com writing articles about D. Bradley Baker and such.
You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar. And until next time, I'll probably be binging the Clone Wars again for the
Fifth time.
For the fifth time.
Fifth time.
Yeah,
Fives.
mhm.
Like fives.
Okay, see you guys next time on SJU.